Today at Let's Talk Marketplace, we talked about Temu again.
We got Chinese retail expert Ed Sender back to talk about the recent developments on the Chinese front, like Temu opening its marketplace to EU-based sellers and Shein suing Temu over infringement.
Talking about irony. Have fun listening. Let's Talk Marketplace.
The Marketplace podcast with Ingrid Laumer and Valerie Dichtel.
Hello everyone, Let's Talk Marketplace is back in English once more, and even more importantly, my business wife and greatest co-host of all time, Valerie, is back. Hello Valerie, how are you? How was your summer? It's so great to have you back, really.
Hi. Yeah, welcome back. I'm glad to be back again. I enjoyed some really relaxing days in Italy, going sailing like every year, and I'm now fully motivated and fully charged back because I would say the past month has been challenging a bit and impulsive. And there have been a lot of changes and growth and now I'm back. And really excited what happened because I was really offline.
You were too busy posting pictures of Italian food.
That's might be true. But maybe there was also a beach which was pretty abandoned and no internet there. Mm-hmm. So it was really nice. And I listened to one of our podcast episodes and. That's it. So I'm really sorry if you wrote me on LinkedIn or something. I didn't made it to reply yet. And but overall it was pretty nice. It's good to be back. And also getting strong and building our marketplace universe with you. There's actually a lot of work to do and lots of things to organize, like our events and webinars and new community platform and job matching and I don't know. And but I think we talk about that later. But first tell me, what did I miss?
Well, apart from the things that you already said, all the things to do and work and organize, if you talking about the marketplace business, news-wise, then I guess the biggest headline we had during the time that you were traveling was that Temu has actually opened their marketplace for EU-based sellers. Actually, that already happened back in July, but no one noticed, at least no one in my network noticed really, until late August. And then when people realized, the thing blew up pretty quickly, I think, which is why I asked an old friend of our podcast to come back and talk some more with us about Temu and Shein.
And that can be no one else but Ed Sender from the Netherlands, the most sought after expert for China's market available in Europe. Welcome back, Ed.
Thanks for having me back.
It's great to have you back, Ed. You were our guest exactly 10 episodes ago in episode 69 when you explained the phenomenon of Temu to us. Actually, you are the fastest coming back guest in our whole podcast. And I guess you must have been busy since then, because how many conference talks and interviews did you give in the meantime?
It was, of course, the holiday period. So I think around the time of the podcast, I was speaking in places like Mechelen in Belgium and in Berlin at K5 and Zurich, of course. And I've basically been very busy writing 3 big new reports on Temu for TechBuzz China, of which I can share some new insights in the show today.
Okay. Yeah. So very interesting. For the people in our audience who haven't listened to episode 59, where we introduce you more into depth, which you definitely should, tell us once more very quickly, how came a Dutchman is so well versed in the Chinese e-commerce market? Ed?
Oh, sorry, there was a question. Okay, I thought it was a statement. Sorry. Basically, to very quickly summarize it, I've lived in China. I'm married to a Chinese lady. And my own background is in digital commerce and in CRM. So when I lived in China, I just got really interested in everything that happened in the digital space, especially in e-commerce. So when coming back to the Netherlands, I just kept following that space, kept writing about it, giving lectures about it. And that eventually also developed into the study tours we're doing. As a matter of fact, at the moment, I'm preparing for the study tour with the KfW, where I'm taking 18 people to China to just give them master classes and also have them experience the country and all of the digital e-commerce for themselves. So that's basically how I ended up being so wrapped up in anything China digital related.
Right. So I think it became quite clear that Ed is the best option to look deeper into this new marketplace opportunity, shall we call it, or challenge. We'll see about that. And I'm really looking forward to the research that you talked about that you were able to share with us later on. And while we're at it, we might also have a quick look at what Shein is doing marketplace-wise. So lots to unwrap in this episode. But before we dive into that, let's have a quick look at the latest news of the last week. I have to bring Valerie up to par after all. So after a very short break with a look at the latest offer of what Marketplace Universe is doing for you at the moment. Because summer's over and Valerie is back, and that means we can head into our pretty hot education autumn. There are two now, because we already had one when this episode has been running. So 2 interesting webinars coming up for our German-speaking listeners. Aren't there, Valerie? Will you tell us a bit more about those?
Yeah, indeed. I'm just like webinar preparing and holding and wow. So we will have a second webinar already on the September 24th at 11 a.m. with Johnny Hofberger from Text2, who was my guest in episode 75. He joins me for a webinar on cross-border taxation and accounting. It is quite a daunting task for many retailers and brands, which is why we will take a lot of time for an Ask Me Anything session, which should help you get all your questions answered. And on October 9th at 11 a.m. as well, Matthias Kluth from Kaufland and retailer Antonio Ligato from GNL will be my co-hosts. The topic will be internationalization on the Kaufland marketplace. Matthias will be able to answer questions about onboarding, and Antonio will report from the field. He's already active on all Kaufland marketplaces. Both webinars will be in German. That's maybe important. And another thing which is quite interesting, we also have like a hot autumn event season, because we will do a Marketplace Universe Connect event on the 7th of October in Munich.
Which we will tell you more about later.
Okay, sorry.
You should read my script, you know.
Yeah,
anyways,
I do. I just added, but maybe I should
Yeah, but we'll tell you more about that later on. But so far, so you see, we have a full packed full. You don't have to remember everything we just said. I'll just link all the webinars in the show notes for you. Or you can visit www.marketplace-universe.com/events, where you will find all the necessary information on everything we're doing on webinars and also on live events. So that's that. But now let's see what has happened in the marketplace world last week. Still lots of interesting news coming up, apart from Temu. Newsflash. Let's start out with the Swiss marketplace Galaxus, because they are expanding internationally since a few years, and there has been some debate, let's shall say, going on in the industry in how serious Galaxus is about this, because they're pumping a lot of money and expanding, for example, to Germany, but also to other European countries. And they're pumping a lot of money in advertisement and building up the marketplace there as well. And there was some speculation how long they will be doing this, because the international dependencies are growing, but not so fast. But now it's clear, the Swiss mother company Migros has just announced that they will secure the international course at least until 2029. So Galaxus is still expanding. I wanted to ask you, Ed, because one of the countries that Galaxus has expanded to, apart from Germany, is actually the Netherlands. Is that company present in the Dutch e-commerce market yet?
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Interesting.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not here. But I haven't noticed them yet.
Interesting, because they have started out in Germany with a quite full bang. There's lots of advertisement all over the place, but I was wondering if they're doing that the same way in different countries, but obviously not. Right. Valerie, what do you think about Galaxus?
I think like Alexis is trying to internationalize like for several years, and it's more like an up and down thingy. So let's see. Obviously, they try to make it more up till 2029.
Yes, definitely. I have a fashion news piece that fits in quite nicely with our episode today. The British fashion retailer and marketplace ASOS.com. They want to sell their retail daughter chain Topshop and Topman. And one of the main bidders was actually Shein. And they obviously gave the best offer too. But now ASOS has decided not to take that higher bid from Shein, but actually give Topshop to the investor group Heartland, who gave a lower bid. Interesting, I think. So I think ASOS is trying to, keep Shein out of their own marketplaces areas. Ed, what do you think about that? Is that some kind of, wall against Shein, and will that help?
Yeah, well, I think it's not a wrong decision to do that, even though they might have gotten more money for it, because you basically will be sponsoring a very threatening competitor by doing that. And Shein, besides their online business, they have also been making steps into the offline market with Forever 21, for instance, in which they invested. So why would you make your biggest threat even more powerful? So I can imagine them not being in favor of Shein.
Yeah, I can imagine it too. I'm just wondering where Shein will take the money that they wanted to spend on Topshop and Topman instead, because I guess the British market is not off the table for them for now. Well, we'll see about that. Right, what else do I have? And interesting things. That one. Talking about platforms and new platforms that you might not already have on your plate. Has anyone heard about the online gaming platform Roblox yet? Valerie?
Somehow. I think I have invested some shares. But
very good. I have two boys from the Alpha generation at home, so of course I know what Roblox is. As do 79 million daily active users, which is really a lot. And the thing why I'm mentioning this today is that they have just announced that from 2025, it will be possible to sell physical products directly on the platform. And then Roblox users that are playing on the platform might be able to see a buy now prompt next to a virtual product within the game. They can interact with that prompt and then start just a normal online purchase process. So quite interesting, I think. For the beginning, only Shopify shop users can take part in this, but I guess this will just be the start. Ed, do you have any opinions about these gaming platforms like Roblox? Is that something that will affect e-commerce as well?
I don't know. I really haven't looked into Roblox. It's not Chinese, so it doesn't have my full attention.
I see. But there are some similar platforms in China as well, aren't there? Some gaming platforms in this kind of way?
There definitely are. And what you of course see is that any platform in China that has a large number of users will eventually also start offering e-commerce. In China, it's much less divided in different corners. Basically, they look at any way to monetize.
Yeah, I guess this is what is happening with Roblox as well. I'll definitely have a look into that because I don't know, I smell a story here, a very interesting one for the next years, I think.
Yeah, and the gaming industry is very, very important. And I mean, there are so many people spending so much time there. I think that's a pretty smart move.
Yeah. Right. Okay. maybe just something, a small reminder. Amazon has shortened the deadline for handling unsaleable stock. So if you've got any stock in the FBA logistics centers and they won't sell for now 23 days, then Amazon can dispose of those products. They've already announced that a while ago, but it has now come into effect since last Sunday. So just a small reminder about that.
And do you know if from how much time do it needs to count as unsellable stock?
If they are for 23 days not sold.
Oh, if there is
I think that's this is something I have to look into. But it is a very short amount of time actually that Amazon takes as takes and says, okay, this stock is not moving fast enough.
Yeah, and it's interesting. They say we can't dispose the products. It's like, what?
Yeah, they will just dispose of them if you don't get them back or get them sent to a different logistics provider or something. They will just be destroyed eventually.
Okay,
so, something to just keep your mind on. Right, these were all my most important news for today. And there's lots of them more, but you will have to subscribe to our newsletter to read those, I think. For today, let's just switch over to talk a bit more about Temu in depth after we tell you a bit more about what Valerie already teased at. So now it's your time, Valerie. What are we doing in October?
Yes, we have. Yeah, we are very excited and proud to announce our first real-life networking experience inside Marketplace Universe. Because as you know, we love to connect people, we love to connect you, and we are with the support of our sponsor plentyOne. We bring you a very own networking event to Munich on the 7th of October.
Yeah. So what can you expect there? So our events, because will be the first of a whole row of events, actually, which are called Marketplace Universe Connect. And our events are designed to promote exchange and build lasting relationships between all of you. So there will be, of course, lots of networking and exchanging ideas, and who knows, maybe some new partnerships for your next marketplace projects. So whether you're a brand or a seller, retailer, manufacturer, or e-commerce head of, if you are actively involved in the areas of DIY, home and living, gardening, electronics and leisure, then this is the event for you. In particular, we are looking for decision makers from D2C brands, e-commerce directors, and marketplace managers. And you're all very welcome. We hope to meet you.
Yeah, and actually, we have fixed a nice location, which I'm visiting right after this podcast recording in central Munich. We're more in the northern part of Munich, and with great food and drinks. And we will also have a small and short presentation there from one of the vendors of Plenty. So if you happen to be in Munich on October 7th, which incidentally is the day after the Munich Oktoberfest, so you might consider just extending your stay for a day, then take this opportunity to network with your peers and me and Ingrid. And spaces are limited though, so register at Marketplace Universe Connect events on our website and register. We will link the website in our show notes. It's also www.marketplace-universe.com/events, and we will happy to see you there, and also on our following events, which is another one on the 22nd of October in Cologne.
And one coming up in February as well. Everything's on the website. Right, see you there. Okay. So that were all the news I had from last week, and these were all the news we have up for you about what we're doing in the Marketplace Universe in the next few weeks. So I guess it's time to talk a little bit about Temu.
Topic of the week.
Okay, so Ed, a lot has happened around Temu since we last spoke. For example, the share price collapsed. And Shein is covering Temu with lawsuits, and Temu has opened their marketplace for EU-based sellers. So can you give us some insights? Because the situation from my point of view, as someone who's not looking into Temu all the time, every day. It's a bit, I don't know, diverse, complex. Can you give us some insights? Where's Temu at the moment?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I said, we just wrote, or I just wrote 3 very much in-depth reports for TechBus China about Temu. We actually started calling it Temu Watch because we're going to do this more frequently. And last month in August, we published about the semi-managed model that we talked about, I think the last time, which we'll also talk about now. We talked about the challenges that they have with compliance and complaints, and about the profitability. Now, if you go back to your question, first of all, the share price. Now, the share price, of course, is the share price of PDD Holdings.
Yes.
But not just Temu, because we have to remember that PDD Holdings is basically 4 divisions. It's Pinduoduo, it's the domestic e-commerce app that started it all. Then you have Duoduo Maicai, which is grocery delivery. You have plentyOne, which is group buying, and then you have Temu. The most important ones here are Pinduoduo and Temu. What happened with their latest earnings call is that the results that PDD presented were actually quite good, but they missed the analysts' expectations by a bit.
Okay.
But what was much more impactful is that the PDD management warned that their profitability will be under pressure in the coming years. Because of the home market, but also because some global challenges. Now, with the global challenges, they probably mean the possibility of tariffs being introduced on anything that they send from China. But another thing which a lot of people probably don't realize is that they are facing more competition in the domestic market. So in China, because Pinduoduo has been so successful and because the Chinese consumer is looking for low prices much more than pre-COVID, a lot of the competitors like JD and Alibaba have really been focusing on trying to offer the lowest prices as well. So they cannot beat what Pinduoduo is doing, but Pinduoduo does have more competition than before. And what they've said is what they want to go for is they realize that they have to sort of upgrade themselves. That for the long term, they need higher quality products and higher quality merchants on their platforms, which will also impact Temu, of course, because otherwise they will have a hard time surviving if other platforms that offer better quality also go for lower prices. So they want to seriously invest in that in the coming years, and therefore they expect their profitability to be lower than it has been. And that really spooked a lot of the shareholders and the stock price, and that's basically the reason why it went down.
Okay.
Then the lawsuit that you mentioned, what Shein is doing. Shein and Temu actually regularly sue each other.
Yes.
They had.
Sounds like their hobby.
Yeah, I think they were doing that back when we recorded our last episode as well, but it was the other way around then.
Well, as a matter of fact, they sued each other for different reasons in December, and then earlier this year they dropped both their cases. But now what's happened is that Shein is claiming that Temu is infringing on the IP of Shemu's own brands and their own products.
Okay.
Now, Temu, of course, is not making their own products, but Shein claims that a Temu employee has been asking merchants on the Temu platform to actually copy Shein's products.
Oh, spicy.
Okay. Which if you know a bit about China, is not something that sounds very unlikely.
Terribly unfamiliar, yes.
So it could well be, but of course it is. It seems to be about an individual employee, maybe an individual merchant, but then Temu will not have had enough oversight on what is being sold on their platform. The ironic thing, of course, is that Shein is also getting sued all of the time for IP infringement of their products from third parties.
Yeah.
So, this is something that was quite big in the news a few weeks ago, but for me it was like, yeah, what else is new?
Another day at the business, at the office. Yeah,
Correct.
I think it's in the news that big because what I get from the market here is that people are still hoping that the Chinese players will just stumble over themselves. That they will just, I don't know, do something that will lead to them, I don't know, canceling each other out, or and everyone was like, oh, the share price has collapsed. Maybe Temu is not as strong as we all feared. So everyone is like, oh, bad news about those guys. That's good for us, I think.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's very important to realize that it's mostly about that domestic market.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, I mean, Temu does have certain challenges at the moment. Customers, consumers are being more critical about it, about product quality. There's the potential for tariffs, both in the UAE and in the US, as you might have heard a few days ago. The merchants are complaining about how Temu is dealing with them and is treating them. And of course, Temu as a platform also still has to be profitable. So there's a lot of things that they need to look after. But at the same time, if you say, do I expect that Temu and Shein will disappear? I don't, like I said, I don't think that they're going away. Also, one of the reasons is because Temu is enormously agile. I mean, in Europe, we're talking about possible tariffs in 2028, right? Temu is already preparing for that to happen. And by the time these would be implemented, unless certain countries do it earlier, they will already have an alternative and they will already have solved the problem before it arises. So one of the reasons they are doing that is, as we talked about the last time, they have this semi-managed model where they actually tell the merchants, now put your stock in the US and put it in Europe. And then we basically let the merchants ship from the domestic, basically the local countries. And in the US, currently already somewhere between 25 and 35% of everything that Temu sells is being shipped from local warehouses.
Oh, wow.
So that's one of the things that they are doing to sort of be prepared for possible tariffs. That a lot of the materials are already sent from inside those countries.
Yeah, and also they also decline and decrease the delivery time, right? Because in the meantime, I also ordered at Temu, and it took like, I think, 10 work days till all the things were here. And as a usual online consumer, you're not supposed to wait longer than 2 days.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So normally, if I order something from Temu, it takes about 1 week to arrive here in the Netherlands. If it's done from a local warehouse, it should be like 2 or 3 days max.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons, like I said, they're doing this is to be prepared for possible tariffs on packages that are sent from China. Another reason is to bring down their logistical costs, because they've been having big challenges in bringing down their logistics, which is for the fully managed model where they ship from China, is a big cost driver. And the third reason why they're doing is this, like you said, is to have shorter lead time, so have better customer satisfaction. And finally, and that's one that is maybe also very important for your listeners, is that they can now basically do any product. It doesn't have to be something that can fit in a little package in an airplane. They sell furniture, garden furniture, fat bikes, all that kind of stuff. They sell as well.
What kind of sellers are supposed to be attracted by this? Because as we said, the opening of this, you don't call it marketplace, you call it like a semi-managed model of Temu, but still it's they try to attract sellers that are based in the EU. And I also noticed that they are, I don't know, very friendly everywhere, and coming up, and they had a booth and the multi-channel day, for example, at the end of August, one of the the biggest events in the marketplace world in Germany. They are reaching out to people on LinkedIn. They are doing presentations and stuff like this. So and they come here with this no provisions, no conditions, no cost for you to sell for now. Of course, for now, we'll talk about that later, but for now, it seems very attractive. So who are they trying to attract? This is mainly for Chinese retailers that have already a foot in the EU, for example, with an FBA warehousing arrangement, or are they really looking for European brands and retailers?
Well, it's a bit of a mix of everything. So the first thing that they did was that fully managed model where factories and merchants basically put stuff in Temu's warehouse and that gets shipped from China. Then the second thing they did is the semi-managed model where they first asked Chinese merchants that either already had products in the European market or were willing to put products in the European market to sell from local warehouses. Now, basically what they're doing now, as far as I can see, is offering that same semi-managed model also to Western products. So one of the reasons they're doing that is they have hit a bit of a roadblock with the semi-managed model with Chinese merchants, because a lot of these Chinese merchants say, well, it's very risky for me to ship a lot of these products to Europe, not yet being sure if I can sell them there, and have all of that inventory in Europe. And I might have to invest into renting warehouse space or having a third-party logistical service provider that does that for me. So they've had certain difficulties in getting merchants enthusiastic about the semi-managed model. So that's probably why they are now also going for the EU market and EU merchants. Now, the third thing, what they're already working on and they're preparing is to basically have like a 3P marketplace. Because in the fully managed and in the semi-managed model, Temu still decides the sales price.
Yeah.
That's, the merchants have no say in that. But in the 3P model that they're working on, then the merchant will be able to determine their own price. And then they will probably also go after, go after bigger brands, like real brands. Because most of the stuff that's sold now on Temu is basically white label products. So, and that is expected to happen before the end of the year. And then they basically have like three different flavors, and depending on the circumstances and the merchant, they can offer one of these three different models.
So as of now, just to clear that up, that it's still not possible to sell as a full-blown seller on Marketplace. You still have to give up the control over pricing so far. But
Correct,
this is going to change, I guess, soon. So, but still, as you said, some Chinese manufacturers have been reluctant to work together with Temu. Why should European brands and retailers be more open to that semi-managed model? What is in it for them?
Yeah. To be honest, first off, I think that they will have a difficulty in attracting a lot, especially brands will not be all that interested. Alibaba tried it before, right? And there were a few brands that tried it, but a lot of them stopped. And a lot of them were not interested in the first place, because who wants to be on a platform amidst a lot of what still people perceive to be a lot of Chinese junk, right?
Yes.
So it's not very good for your brand
Reputation,
image.
yeah.
And if you have to give up your pricing power as well, so I have reservations about how successful Temu will be in that. Having said that, what we see is that Temu is using a lot of the playbook of Pinduoduo, what Pinduoduo has done in China. And that's why I always say it's very important to not just look at what Temu is doing, but what Pinduoduo has been doing before in China. And one of the things they did at one point is they started selling brands. They even started selling iPhones. Now, initially, of course, iPhone didn't want to sell on the Pinduoduo platform, but Pinduoduo...
Yeah.
Pinduoduo just went to a lot of distributors that had leftover stock and started selling like older models at very low prices. And by doing that, they attracted more upmarket consumers. And then bit by bit, some brands got more interested in also using Pinduoduo as a channel. So that is something that could very well also happen if they do that in Temu.
Sounds familiar, sort of. Few years back, Amazon did the same thing with the brands that were not willing to sell on Amazon themselves, or who would prohibit their sellers from doing that. So, and then they started to buy old stock somewhere around. Right. Yeah, we talked about these similarities between the Temu and the old Amazon approach in a way. I just find it quite ironic that now Amazon in China is trying sometimes to present itself as the better option for Chinese sellers and Chinese manufacturers with their own ideas and own program for them, which is sort of a nice, I don't know, turnaround in history.
Yeah, well,
in a way.
The interesting thing about Amazon, of course, is that a lot of merchants that are also selling on Temu and Alibaba and on TikTok Shop, they are already selling for a longer time on Amazon. But they, of course, they have higher prices there, but Amazon also has fulfillment by Amazon, so they need to pay a lot. They need to pay for visibility, which they don't need to do now on Temu. So in certain cases, they are just simply using Temu as a second channel. But a few years ago, when Amazon kicked off about 3,000, I think it was 3,000 merchants from their platform because they were cheating and they were committing fraud, then China actually noticed like, this Amazon platform where a lot of our factories and merchants are selling, it really has got like a sort of a stranglehold on what we can do cross-border. And after that, the Chinese government actually started stimulating the Chinese internet platforms and Chinese internet companies to help merchants sell directly without being too dependent on Amazon. So that's something that happened. And now, of course, what has also happened is Amazon is setting up a low price zone where they use exactly the same model, the fully managed model, as Temu is doing. To have sort of an alternative for Temu users.
Yeah, it's ironic in a way. Talking about ironic, actually, which brings me to the point that you mentioned before, that Europe and with much more vigor, the USA are trying to keep the Chinese players, Temu and Shein as well, out using law and using restrictions, using customs regulations and so on. And I just recently I read an interview with one of Shein's biggest critics in Europe, which is Patrick Sahn, actually, manager of the European chunk fashion retailer Kick, who recently complained about the screaming injustice that Temu and Shein do not comply with the law. Right, just as a reminder, at least 117 people were killed and more than 200 seriously injured in a fire at the textile factory in Bangladesh some 10 years ago. Just, saying. Anyway, is this... Just playing advocates, the devil's advocates here, but is this European moral high horse something that is perceived in Asia?
Yeah, to a certain extent it is. And I think to a certain extent they are right to perceive it like that. I mean, first of all, let me say that I do believe that there, of course, should be a level playing field.
Definitely. It's just who is asking for it is
correct. And
my point.
And on top of that, I mean, I wouldn't, as I often say, I wouldn't shed a tear if Shein and Temu would disappear. Because I'm really worried about the whole consumption behavior that's linked to it. And people cannot control themselves, basically. But one of the things that I think that we should also realize is that for the past 40 years, we've been making our products in China. Everything got made in China. And it was great because we got low prices, which helped us in our welfare, basically. So we were able to consume more. And it helped China as well because everybody got to work in the factories and the living standards got better. And about 700 million people got raised out of poverty because they were making our products. But at a certain point, China has also gotten more expensive. So the labor costs are now higher. And that's when you see indeed that some of the Western brands and importers are moving their manufacturing to Vietnam, Bangladesh, India, etc., etc. Now, what of course happens if you do this, those Chinese manufacturers, those factories are not going to close. They're not going to say, okay, well, we'll go back to the countryside, right? So the overcapacity that's now available in those types of factories that used to make our clothing and shoes, etc., is now being used to sell directly to us. Now, one of the things that, if you're talking about a moral high horse, what also happens is that you see, especially also in retail lobbies, you see people saying like, oh, the labor conditions in those factories. But hold on. I mean, Temu didn't create those factories. Those factories were already there. They were making our products for 40 years. And seemingly it was all fine then. But if they're selling directly to us, then that should all of a sudden be a problem. Another thing is that the cultural context of those factories is that, yes, people maybe work 12, 15 hours there, but those are people coming from the countryside and they want to make such long days because they want to earn as much as possible in as short as possible a time so they can go back home. Or they need to buy a house for their son who otherwise doesn't find a wife. So we sometimes look at these things through our rose-colored Western work-life balance glasses without putting things into context. So as far as that is concerned, again, I wouldn't shed a tear if these platforms disappear, but some of the reasoning and the criticism that I see can be quite hypocritical at times.
Thanks for going with me on this detour, because this is something that I think it gets debated about too little. But anyway, we did have time in the last episode to catch up about Shein. Maybe we still have a few minutes left to talk about them, because sometimes it's forgotten that this is a different model in a way, because Shein is producing their own brands, but they are also opening a marketplace model. They're also opening their platform now for used goods. So they are, I think, from my perspective, they are going in a different direction than Temu. Or is that a wrong perception?
Yes and no. So Shein, of course, basically started as an online retailer of products that they have made themselves. But the most interesting thing about their own production model is that they launch a lot of designs, sometimes several thousand a day. And they order very small quantities of these and put them in their warehouse. And only if these, because basically their website is one big A/B test. Only the products that are popular, they have produced again. So I always say it's such a shame that they make such lousy products.
Yeah,
because the model itself is actually quite sustainable. Because
sure.
If only they wouldn't use it for making clothing with a lot of polyester in it, then that could be really interesting. But
in other cases, that would be if you say like, okay, this is a vertical retailer who was like selling their own clothes, right, and they're producing it like you told us. It could be also comparison if you say now like, okay, Zara is opening also marketplace business.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But they are not from China. They are from Europe. They are also producing pretty fast and so on. But yeah, as you said, the quality of the products, right?
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, Shein is even faster than Zara.
I know.
So nobody can catch up with them. So that's their own products. And if you look at the product mix, then Shein sells 70% is basically clothing, whereas 30% is other products. And with Temu, it's actually the other way around. As a matter of fact, Temu started out as a Shein clone, but they very quickly noticed that probably because they couldn't find enough factories to produce goods, because those factories are all working for Shein. So they shifted more towards more like household items. Now, what Shein is doing, which is related to the marketplace, is they actually have 4 models at the moment. So 65% of what they sell is self-operated, so that's their own brands. Then in 2023, they also opened a fully managed model, just like Temu did. That's more for home appliances, pet products, etc., electronic products. And very recently, and I don't think that's available in Europe yet, they also opened a semi-managed model, just like Temu. So again, put the materials into the country of destination and ship it from local warehouses. And then finally, you have like a real third-party marketplace. That's about 15% of what they sell. And that's much more like a traditional marketplace where they don't manage your logistics or manage your sales process.
Or your pricing, right?
Or your pricing, correct, yeah.
Right. So apart from where the two are meeting is the quality of the products or the lack of quality here, I think. But from a European brand point of view, is Shein somewhat more, I don't know, approachable if you want to use it as a marketplace?
Well, approachable. I mean, I think both companies are very happy to have anybody sell on their platform, as long as it's to their conditions.
What are their conditions? Do you have any insights on that end, Ed? So, what are like the marketplace commissions, for example, to sell on Shein?
Okay, I think the exact details are in those 3 Temu Watch reports that we have on TechBoss China. And it has a lot of detail about the price setting and the margins for the merchants, et cetera, et cetera. So I would refer to that too, because I don't have all of those exact statistics from the top of my head. But one thing that you do have to take into account is that, for instance, Temu is not very popular among the merchants that work within them, especially the ones that are selling from China. Because they are in the fully managed model, for instance, they are really pressured to constantly lower their price. While there's also a penalty system, and if the consumer complains, then the merchants have to pay 1.5 to 5 times their selling price as a penalty to Temu. And Temu doesn't really share information about why the customer complained. So, and in certain cases, they might actually give you a penalty for the whole batch that you sold, not just for that one consumer.
Wow.
So they are very tough with their merchants. They are basically tough with anything that they do in the supply chain. Even if you look at the warehouses that are being used for the semi-managed model, the logistical service providers are held to KPIs that are much stricter than the regular logistical KPIs. So they're both domestically and internationally, they're like a really tough partner to work with. Shein, again, if you look at the domestic market, a lot of factories are very happy to work with Shein because Shein also helps them to improve their business. They share a lot of data. Some of their core 300 manufacturing partners actually get like a sort of ERP system that they work with, Shein's ERP system, so they constantly can see how their products are doing and what they actually need to produce. So, and if they have quality issues, then Shein actually sends people to their factories to help out, to solve the problem. So they are actually considered to be quite a good business partner. Now, I don't know if that also applies to selling on their marketplace, but they have a better reputation than Temu in China, at least.
Interesting. Right. I guess we have to leave it at this because we're already way over our time. But I guess that was our update on Temu. And I have a feeling it won't be the last episode in which we talk about it. So maybe you can just, reserve a spot for us in the future because I'm sure there will be lots to talk about soon.
See you in
again.
10 episodes, right?
Yes, possibly. Right. So, but for today, thank you very much for your insights and thanks to you out there for listening. I hope we could shed some more light on these players. Right. Next week, we'll be back in German to chat with Friederike Knopp, CEO of the watches retailer Chronext, about the jewelry and luxury market, and maybe also about how Chronext's insolvency is coming along.
Yeah, and in 2 weeks' time, we'll be back in English, where we are joined by Amazon vendor expert Martin Heubel. With him, we will talk about the recent shake-up of the vendor program and how brands should deal with that.
So another very up-to-date topic there. You don't want to miss that, so like and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you are listening to us. Right, and that's it for now. Thank you. Bye-bye. You listen to Let's Talk Marketplace,
the Marketplace podcast with Ingrid Lommer and Valerie Dichtel.